This conference will now be recorded.
We are going to see what are the different SQL Server components, what is a SQL Server instance, what are the different SQL Server editions, and what are the different SQL Server versions. So SQL Server components. So SQL Server is not all about database engine only or database server only. It has other components as well. Like you can see all the SQL Server components are listed here. Here we have database engine. This database engine works as a database server. Along with that, we have other components as well, like integration service, master data service, replication, power view, analytical service, reporting service, etc. All right. And in this course, we are going to learn about the database engine service. Okay. Next is SQL Server instances. So as we were
Hello.
discussing in the last class,
Sir, good evening.
yeah, good evening.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. Actually, Saroj this side.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, sir, this is session 2 and I am attending this class today only. Can you please just tell me what actually your test taught us like in session 1? How we covered so many things in.
In session 1, we just learned how to install SQL Server, how to configure SQL Server, and how to connect to SQL
Okay.
Server. So the entire, step-by-step process was given in this class. You can go through the class recording and you will be good to go with the installation.
Actually, that is the only reason to say that session 1 video recording video in the classroom.
Sorry, your voice is breaking. Can you come again?
Yeah, actually, I'm saying that session 1 video is still not present in Google Classroom.
Yeah, that will be uploaded soon. Don't worry.
It's
It was
already
there in Google
uploaded.
Classroom.
Okay, sir. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Shall I proceed? All right.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so as I was telling, so SQL Server has different type of naming convention. One is called default instance. The other one is called named instance. Now, what is default instance? So I'll be discussing about how generate the instance name and how the instance name actually um, generate how Microsoft SQL Server actually generate the instance. Okay, or how Microsoft SQL Server actually generate the instance name. That I'll elaborate in details. Then we can learn about it. Okay, but for now, uh, uh, we can understand that instances are basically two types. One is default instance and the other one is named instance. Okay. All right. The next one is SQL Server editions. So like every software, we have different editions in SQL Server. Like we have Enterprise Edition, we have Standard Edition, we have Express Edition, and we have Developer Edition. So Enterprise Edition is the costliest one, having all the features. Standard Edition is something which is less costly than Enterprise Edition, but it's having only the core features. It's not having the full featured edition. Okay, Standard Edition is having only the features that is mostly required by all the businesses. Okay, and the next editions we are having is like free editions like Express Edition, Developer Edition, Web Edition, etc. So in our class, we are basically we have installed Developer Edition, which is free of cost, and it has no expiry. So you can use the software uh, for a long period of time. There's no issue like the software is going to expire or something. All right. So SQL Server versions. So coming to a brief history of Microsoft SQL Server, it was actually developed by mm, you know it was actually developed by IBM, and in the initial days it was developed by IBM. The name was Sybase. Okay, so the software name was Sybase, which was developed by IBM, and from that the software got divided into two parts. Microsoft derived the software and named it Microsoft SQL Server, and IBM enhanced Sybase and named it DB2. So from Sybase, we actually have two different softwares. One is Microsoft SQL Server and other is IBM DB2. So the initial release from Microsoft SQL Server was in 1989, and from there the current version of SQL Server is SQL Server 2022. Okay. Okay. So we have different tools that is coming with the package. So when we are installing SQL Server, we are having couple of tools that is coming with the media. The tools are SQL Server Management Studio. We are having the SQL command line utility, SQL CMD, which we can use in the PowerShell. Okay. We have Transact SQL or SQL, the set of SQL programming commands which we can use for interacting with database. We can also use PowerShell to connect with SQL Server and manage SQL Server. All right. So in terms of tools, also we have SSMS, that is SQL Server Management Studio. We have SQL Server Configuration Manager to configure the services. We have SQL Server Profiler for monitoring that we are going to learn later in the course. We have SQL Server Database Engine Tuning Advisor, also known as DTA. This is basically a tool which will help you to perform performance tuning. We have SQL Server Import and Export. This is a wizard. This is not exactly a tool. This is a wizard using which we can import and export our database. And along with that, we have SQL CMD for PowerShell. We also have BCP utility for PowerShell. Okay, so these are the additional utility or tools that is coming with SQL Server, and we are going to learn about it. No worries there. So this is how Microsoft SQL Server Studio looks. So we already installed Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio. We have seen it yesterday, how to connect to SQL Server using SQL Server Management Studio and how the layout looks. All right. And this is how we can connect to Microsoft SQL Server using command prompt. We can connect to SQL Server using uh, PowerShell as well. Okay. All right. Now here we have multiple commands in SQL Server programming language, using which we can configure SQL Server, we can create new database, and we can perform different checks in SQL Server. So in the last class we have learned about how we can create a new database from UI, right? The same thing can be done using T-SQL or SQL programming as well, or SQL commands as well, right? So we are going to see that how we can do the same thing, like creating the database using SQL commands. All right. So let me open Management Studio.
Hello, hi sir.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah, so there are a lot of terms which you use during this PowerPoint presentation, like PowerShell and all those things. So we are not actually aware of what is PowerShell and all those terms. So it will be better if you could just give a brief or
Yeah.
elaborate
So
terms.
yeah. So that's very normal because these are the new terms that we are going to learn. I'm just giving you an overview, and we are going to learn
Okay,
in detail about the every topics. Okay.
okay, okay.
All right. So in the last class, we have seen that how we can create a new database by right clicking on database folder and clicking on new database. After that, there will be a new wizard coming up where we need to give the new database name, right? So let's wait for the wizard to come up. Taking more than usual time. So these are the commands. Here it is. So here is the new database wizard. So here we can give the database name. So I have given the database name as XYZ, right? Now if I click on OK, a new database would be created with the name XYZ, right? So the same thing we can do via command as well. And the command would be in transact SQL or T-SQL language. Now what is T-SQL? I'll again come to that. So yeah, so this is the database that got created. We can also drop the database, right? All right. Now, if we want to create the same database using script, the syntax is very same. Create database. This is database name, right? So this is the command. You need to select the command. You need to make sure you have connected to the master database. So here you can see this is master database. Okay. Then you need to click on execute. Command got executed successfully, but I don't see XYZ database here. Why? Because it doesn't got refresh automatically. We need to click on database folder and refresh it manually. Then we can see XY database. We can see visually here. Now how we can drop the database? Very simple. The syntax is drop database, database name. Okay, done. Command executed successfully. If I refresh the folder, XYZ database is now dropped. Now the question is, if again I try to drop the database, what will happen? It will give me an error, cannot drop the database XYZ because it does not exist, right? We are trying to drop a database which database doesn't even exist. Let's do one more thing. Let's create database XYZ. So database got created. If again I try to create the database, it will give me an error. Database XYZ already exists. Choose a different database name. So from this, what we understand is all the database names under an instance should be unique. So we cannot have the same database name under instance, right? Now we can drop the database. All right. So that is how we can create a database using command, and we can drop a database using a command. Any questions here?
They were with Saurabh here. So instead
Mhm.
of drop, there is no other option to delete, right? So drop means deleting it completely.
Yes. Drop database means the entire database will be dropped. There is no way to revert the operation.
And no
Once this
other
is
this keyword also to delete the database. Only drop word has to be used.
yes, yes.
Okay, got it.
All right. Okay. Hmm. Let me go to the next module. All right. So installing and configuring SQL Server. So this we have already done in the last class, but let me go through the slides so that you guys have a better understanding. So to do the installation and configuration, we need to plan for SQL Server installation. Once the planning is done, we need to perform some installation using installation media, and then post installation configuration. So once the installation is done, we need to do some configuration for the SQL services, right? So when we are planning for SQL Server installation, we need to see what are the considerations for the SQL Server installation. That means we need an enterprise edition, we need a standard edition. What are the features that we need, right? What would be the license cost? So for us, we need a free software because we are, we are not running a business here. We are trying to learn SQL Server. So we need a free edition which can be utilized for our learning purpose. So the considerations are set at the very beginning. That is why we have installed the developer edition, right? So minimum hardware and software requirements. You can find the minimum hardware and software requirements in the Microsoft page itself. It's very, very bare minimum. Like you need 8 GB of free space in C drive. You need at least one CPU. You need at least 1 GB of RAM, like this. Okay, which in the current um, era every computer has. So that's there. So we need to check what would be the CPU and memory requirements. So depending on the application, depending on the business load, we need to assess how much CPU we need, how much memory we need. All right. And then we need to perform, or we need to plan for service account. Now what is service account? Service account is the account which is responsible to run the SQL services or any service in Windows. Let me show you. If I open services, let's say this is my SQL Server service, right? SQL Server, my server name is Hermes. Now you can see log on as column. So this service is logged on, or this service is currently owned by this username or this account, okay, or this user. So this service is currently running, but who is actually running the service? There has to be a owner, there has to be a user who is running the services. So every service has to be a owner. There has to be a owner for every service. See, this one is running by network service. This one is running by local system user. So network service user, local system user, you can see every service is been run by a particular user. The user can be local to the computer. The user can be system users, or the users can be like this. So for SQL Server, we need to also plan for the service accounts. All right. Now, one may ask me, so we didn't plan for any service accounts. So how it actually happened? We just clicked on basic. Once the installation wizard popped up, we just clicked on basic and the entire installation was done. We didn't created any user or something, right? So for us, the user was created by the SQL Server installer when it was installing the software. If you go to service and if you check your SQL service, you can see there is a service account with respect to the SQL Server service. So the service account was created during the installation itself. All right. Coming to next is SQL Server install. Under SQL Server installation, we need to understand what are the required component and features that we need to install, because as we know, SQL Server Media is having a lot of lot of tools, a lot of components to offer. So we need to understand which components we are currently requiring. So we need to install the software accordingly. Depending on that, we need to understand the hardware and software requirements. Service account details, as I was saying, we need to have the service account, but for our case, the service account was created automatically. But if you go to the industry practices, what happened actually is, first we need to create the service account. Then once the installation is done, we can change the service account as per our own requirement. So if I go to properties and go to log on, here I can change the service account name. So this would be the service account username, and here we need to give the respective passwords. Okay. Or else we can use local system account as well. What is local system account? Local system accounts are network service accounts, local system accounts. These accounts are local to computer, or these accounts are already there as a part of system accounts. All right. All right. Coming
Uh,
to next is, yeah.
Sorry to disturb you. Actually,
Mhm.
uh,
No worries. Tell me.
I create a database and but I drop it. I'm not going to drop it actually. It's not working in my system.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
I create a database name as XYZ.
Hmm.
I'm trying to drop it, but it's not going to drop.
What's
And
there?
also I tried cannot drop the database XYZ because it does not exist or type do not have permission.
That means you already dropped the database. You
But
can create the database again, and you can try to drop the database.
it's already in my system right now. It's not deleted.
You need to
Can I?
refresh the database folder. You need to click on the database folder and click on refresh to see that the database is actually present in the instance or not, because the database folder doesn't refresh automatically.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So under SQL Server installation, we have hardware requirement, software requirement, like processor disk, as I was saying. Under software requirement, we need to understand what would be the operating system. Like for SQL Server, the operating system has to be, Windows operating system. Prerequisite softwares, there has to be other, frameworks that we need to install. So in early early days, we need to install .NET framework separately. All right. But currently .NET framework come in the operating system as default, and even if it's not there, the SQL Server wizard, installation wizard, install the framework during the installation, so we don't have to install any framework beforehand. Okay, so that's it. And under general software, we can have the client software like SQL Server Management Studio and everything. So again, CPU and memory utilization needs to be there. Service account. So service account, we need to understand what are the different service account we have. So there are different domain user account, local user account, local service account, local system account, etc. So what is this? This account is basically a domain service account. Okay, this is network system account. This is what network local system account. So there are different type of service account. So let me do one thing. Let me give you guys a homework. Okay, yeah, what is service account? So I'll be giving you guys some homeworks or some topics to learn. Under that, you guys need to understand what is service account and what are the different type of service accounts. If you find any problem, you can ask me questions in the next class. Okay, all right. Now installing SQL Server, that is there. So we have done the installation. We have seen how to do the installation. We can do the installation in many different ways. We can do the installation using wizard. We can do the installation using command prompt. We can do unattended installation using configuration file, and the configuration file for the unattended installation, we need to prepare the system preparation file or response file. Okay, so the installation we have done is using wizard for our case. All right, so these are the different steps of installation. Post installation checks. So in the post installation checks, we have done configuring the service. So in configuring the service, what we have done, uh, we made sure that the startup type is automatic and the status is currently running, right? So these were the configurations that we have made in the service level after the installation. All right. That's it. That's mostly it. And there are updates as well. So when we talk about a software, it comes with, periodic updates or periodic service pack updates. What is that? So for SQL Server, there are different type of updates that is released by Microsoft. Those could be hot fixes, cumulative updates, or service pack. Okay, so these are the known issues or enhancement in the software that we need to install once those enhancements are released by the vendor. So okay, so generally these service packs and cumulative updates and hot fixes are released by Microsoft every quarter. So if the software is in production environment, if the software is supporting a very critical business, or if the software is supporting a business, then we need to make sure that the software is up to date, compliant with the update. So we need to see that what are the latest updates that is released by Microsoft for this particular software, that we need to keep on updating, and we need to apply the updates in the software. Okay, so that's about the SQL Server updates. All right, so anyone is having any questions till now?
Devabrata,
Anyone? Mhm.
Raka this side. So I wrote the command create database XYZ, but nothing is happening actually. Can you please see the screen once?
Yeah, sure, sure. Raka, right?
Yes.
I'm making you presenter. Please share your screen.
Yes. Is it visible now? No. Is it
Yes,
visible?
it's visible.
Okay,
Yes.
now you see.
So you need to click on the editor. You need to click on the editor and select the command.
Here,
No,
here,
no, no. Editor. Editor means the whiteboard where you have written the query. Yeah, you need
and
to
then,
now select the command.
okay, wait, okay.
Right. Now you need to make sure the database, connected database is master.
Uh, I didn't understand. Like, oh, this one.
Yes. So this
Okay,
is master, that's fine. Now you need to click on execute. Execute button.
oh, okay.
Right.
Thank you,
So
thank you so much.
unless you are clicking on the editor, those master database and execute button, that is actually relevant to the editor or the
Okay,
whiteboard you see.
okay.
So if you
And
click on the object explorer, then the master database execute button would be disabled. So click on database folder. Now see the master database and execute button got disabled
yes,
because
yes, yes.
these buttons are relevant with the editor. Okay.
Okay,
If you click on the
thank you.
editor, those button would be enabled automatically. Now
Close
to see
button.
the database XYZ, you need to click on database folder and do a refresh.
Here.
Hi,
Yes, yes.
Devabrata, one question, Saurabh here.
Yes, Saurabh.
See, the options, right? Master model MSDB 10 DB. So, are they in hierarchy or like how?
No, these are not there in a particular hierarchy, but they
Okay.
have every system database has their own responsibilities and roles that we are going to discuss in details. Okay. Which
Okay, okay, fine.
particular information is held by master database, which particular information is held by MSDB database. All these things will discuss in detail.
Okay, got it.
All right.
So
Mm,
Devabrata,
mhm.
I'm interrupting. Sorry. After writing drop XYZ, there is a red colored statement writing unknown object type XYZ. So I have to write drop database XYZ, right?
Yes. Drop database name. That is the command.
Okay. Another question. What is that master means?
Master is a database. It is a system database.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Anyone else having any questions?
Sir, sir Mahesh here, sir.
Yeah, Mahesh.
Sir, actually, after doing that, sir, we have to write the command, no, sir. Means drop or I can't see the command, sir. Means I have created a database for ABC.
Mhm.
To drop or to write the to rename that. How I have to do, sir? Means there is no command is coming that where I have to create.
I didn't get your question. Let me make you presenter. Please share your screen. Yeah, please share your screen.
Sir,
All right.
you can see. Yes, sir.
Now you need to click on new query.
Query.
There is a button in top.
Okay, okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, there is a dedicated button above execute as well. New query. You can use that as well. Yeah. Now what
Okay.
is your question?
Okay. This is what I am asking, sir. Means how to.
Okay. So before you execute anything, you need to see that the connected database is ABC because you right clicked on ABC database and then you have chosen for new query. That is why the new query that opened is now connected with ABC database. You need to change the database connection to master. So click on the editor The editor is the whiteboard that you see in the right side. No, the
Ah, okay,
right
okay.
side, the whiteboard you see, this is the editor. Yeah. Now you need
Yes,
to change the database name from ABC to master. So click on the drop down, left corner, top left corner, you have a database name called ABC.
yes, yes, sir.
Yeah,
You
you
have to
need to
click
click on the
master.
drop down and you need to select master. Hmm?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
Hi, Aryan this side.
Yeah. Hi, Aryan.
Sir, the new query open, but how can I write create ABC?
Mm, I'm making you presenter. Please share your screen.
It's my phone's laptop side. Wait. Yes, share this screen, sir.
I'm making you presenter. Yeah, share your screen. Yeah, what is your question?
How can I create, sir, a new
So
database, sir?
you need to click on the editor. Click on the
Which
editor.
side?
No, in the whiteboard. Click on the whiteboard.
Yes, sir.
No, you have done a mistake. Close the editor first. So I think you have dragged out the editor. Yeah, click on no. Close it. No, no, no. Click on the close button. Yeah, now click on no.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yes.
Don't click on cancel. Click on no.
Yes, sir.
All right. I can see in the taskbar you have another, you know, another editor open. Can you go to the taskbar once?
This side.
No, below. Taskbar is a part of operating system. Yeah. So in the right hand side, there is a new window opened. Now there are two Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio opened in the taskbar. Please go to the
Yes,
taskbar. Let me see. Yeah. Go to the right side. Yeah. Close one. Click on no. All
yes,
right.
sir.
So now we are in the right place. Now click on new query.
Yes, sir.
Now
Fine.
type in the query, create database name.
Enter.
Uh, Select the command and click on execute. Select the command and click on execute. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now expand the database folder. Expand the database folder.
Yes, sir. Clear,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? All right. So let me share my screen now. Now Few things to notice here. I have written the command in all capital letters. Create database, all in caps. The database name is in small. Okay. So let me run this. Database created. Now let me write the same thing in all smaller cases, and let me type the database name in uppercase. Okay. So it's giving me an error. Database XYZ already exists, but I did not created the database in XYZ in uppercase. I have created in lowercase, right? So if I give some other name, let's say ABC, will it work? Let's see. So it got executed successfully. ABC XYZ. So let's write down the command create database by mixing and matching the uppercase and lowercase. Okay. So create database, let's say test. It's also working. So thing to understand is here the programming language or the language is case insensitive. Case insensitive means it doesn't matter I'm writing the code in upper letters or lower letters or mixing upper and lower letters. Same goes for the object names or database names. Okay. So it doesn't really matters. Everything will work, and this XYZ is basically same as this XYZ. Okay. So my database name is in smaller case. You can see. Now if I type drop database XYZ in capitals, it will actually drop the database which is written in smaller case, this one. So if I refresh the folder, you can see the database is dropped. The ABC database is in uppercase. If I write drop database lower ABC, that will actually drop the database which is written in uppercase. See, the database is dropped. So drop database test, the test database is also dropped. So the takeaway here is that SQL Server programming language or SQL, or rather T-SQL, commands are case sensitive. All right. So let me go back to the class again. So we are done till now, till this. Next is what is database instance? So
Devabrata's,
what is database?
sorry, this side.
Tell me.
Actually, that time I was got disconnected due to no poor network activity issue. Actually, I am having a
Mhm.
issue here. While dropping a database named XYZZ, it is showing an error like because it does not exist. But while I am seeing my database, it is still there. Even after refreshing it, it is not dropping from my database.
All right, Saroj, I'm making you presenter. Please share your screen.
Okay. Can you see it?
All right. So can you please click on database folder and do a refresh?
Yeah.
Click on database folder and do a refresh.
Okay.
I,
It's
I
happening.
think your
Thank you.
screen got freezed for me.
Why it was not happening earlier while I have not clicked on database?
No, you need to click on the folder which you want to refresh. So if you clicked on database, the entire database folder would be refreshed. If you click on some other, let's say database snapshot or system database, that will not refresh the database folder, because database folder is coming one top layer of that, right? So you need to maintain the hierarchy.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Got it?
One question, Deva brother, Saurabh here.
Yeah, tell me.
Is there an option to refresh the whole Object Explorer from the keyboard instead of going with the mouse?
F5, F5
You
is the
need to
option.
first click on the F5 option, will give you the refresh, but that won't assure that which folder you are refreshing. You need to click
Hmm.
on a particular folder, or you need to click on the instance name. So you
So
need to
it is
select which
mandatory.
layer you want to refresh, right?
Okay, okay, got it. ठीक है, got
So
it.
actually the entire change has been made in the background. It's only the physical or the visual appearance that we are seeing in the Object Explorer. That doesn't mean that the object is not created or anything. It's only the refresh of the UI. That's it.
Okay, okay, got it.
All right, let me share my screen again. All right, now what is database instance? What is database instance? This is the database instance. In a different term, the, the server name field, this field is basically the instance name. The connection name to SQL Server is called as instance name or server name. Okay, so if you click on the connection, see the server type is database engine, the server name is, this is the server name, or in other words we call it the instance name. Now let me copy the instance name and show you something, how the instance name got created like this. So instance name basically consists of two parts. One is host name, then a backslash, and then service name. All right. So here host name is my laptop. So in this case, host name is equals to my laptop. How it's actually preparing the instance name, that I am actually elaborating here. And next is service name. Here service name is Hermes. Okay. Now let's validate it. Service name is Hermes. Let's validate. SQL Server, the service name is Hermes. You see, this is the service name, Hermes. So this one is validated. Now next part is host name. What is the host name, or what is my laptop name, right? So to validate that, let me open PowerShell. Now let me check the host name or my computer name. The host name is my laptop. So my laptop. So how the instance name got created? host name backslash service name. So host name is my laptop, then backslash, then service name. So this is called as the entire thing called as instance name, right? Now, instance name can be of two types. One is named instance and default instance. What is named instance? Named instance means when we have host name as well as service name. So named instance, this term is coming where we are giving a name for our SQL service. We are giving a name, that is why it is called as named. Okay. So when we are giving a name for our service, then the instance name would be called as named instance. And when I'm not giving any name for our SQL service, then it would be called as default instance. So by default, it would be called as MS SQL Server. The service name would be MS SQL Server. So for you guys, if you open services and check the SQL service, instead of Hermes, it would be shown to you guys as MS SQL. That means you guys are having default instance. Okay. Now, when we have a default instance, then we did not provided any service name. So what would be our instance name? Our instance name would be only the host name because we don't have any service name, right? So for our case, the instance name would be only the host name. So for you guys, when you are trying to connect, this field is actually showing your computer name or your host name. Is it true or false for you guys? Can you please confirm?
Yeah. Yes, yes, it is
True,
true.
And can you guys please validate by opening services that this SQL server under brackets it's showing MS SQL Server for everyone or not?
How can we open this
Ye-
tab services?
So you need to click on start. You can search here, type service, and there will be this service application.
Yes, it is showing that MS SQL Server.
MS SQL Server, right?
Yeah.
So for you guys are having a default instance. That is why you guys are having only host name as the instance name. For me, I'm having a named instance. That is why I'm having host name backslash service name. Is it clear about default instance and named instance? It's an important question in terms of interview. So interviewer may ask you guys, what are the different type of SQL instances?
Devabrata, can you just please repeat this once again?
Which one? Any particular
This
thing
named
or
instance is
the
default instance. No, I got it.
Mhm.
The named instance and default instance, and how to validate it. Just
So see, the instance name is prepared using this format. Okay, host name, then backslash, then service name. So how you can get your host name? Simply open PowerShell and type this command host name. That will give you your host name. And how you can get your service name? You can open services and there you can see the service name. Now combining these two things, you can prepare your instance name. So one may ask, like, why this is the instance name, from where it derived this instance name, right? So the format is this. Now, for you guys, you did not provided the service name while the installation. Why? Because you have chosen the basic option. In the basic option, everything would be set up by SQL Server Wizard automatically. So you did not get any option to provide the service name, right? So service name is blank. Now what is left? What is left with the instance name format? The left a part is host name. That means
Okay.
for you guys, the instance name is the host name itself. Is it clear?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how to validate it?
Uh, you can click on star. Sorry, you can click on Windows. Go to PowerShell. You can search here PowerShell. Right? Open PowerShell.
One second.
Once PowerShell
Okay.
is open, you need to type down host name. This is the command. Okay. Then enter. Then you can get your computer's name or host name.
Okay. So basically, we don't have service name currently
No. Now, if you
for our
go
API.
to services, with respect to SQL Server, in the brackets, you will see MS SQL Server, which is the default value. You will see this value in the brackets for SQL service. And this value is the default value. Okay. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes, clear.
So we have learned what is database instance, what is named instance, what is default instance. Now the question is, what is version, what is edition? Can someone tell me the difference between version and edition? What is the difference between version and edition?
So in simple
Yeah.
terms, we can say that version is something a similar thing which is coming in coming with new features. That is a version, and edition is something which is completely new.
No, the opposite actually.
The
So
opposite. Okay.
version is, we all are using mobile operating systems, right? So let's say Android operating system. So every year Google release a new Android version or a new Android edition. So every year we get a new Android version or new Android edition. What is that
Version. Version.
Version.
New
Version
version.
update.
version? So every year we get a new Android version. Version means entirely new software with enhanced features, enhanced capabilities, enhanced securities, etc. and etc. Right? So new version or version means entirely new software. Then what is edition? Edition means within the version we have different flavors of the software. What does that mean? Different flavors depending on the requirement. So like, let's consider the same example, Android operating system. So in Android operating system, we know one edition is there. The edition name is Android Go edition. Do you know what is the meaning or what is the benefit of Android Go edition? So Android Go edition is basically the lighter version of Android software. So the cheaper, you know, the mobile phones which doesn't have hefty hardwares, highly configured hardwares, those mobile phones actually use a lighter version of Android, and this particular edition is called as Go edition. Okay, so edition means a variant of a particular version, and version is an entirely new software. So version is an entirely new software, and edition is a particular variant of that particular version. Is it clear?
So, so Devabrata, Saurabh here.
Mhm.
Can I repeat what I understood with this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's say the Windows 10, Windows 11, these all are versions. Okay,
Right,
and
right.
the Pro, Windows Pro Home Edition, those are like Office.
Editions.
Yeah, those all are editions, right?
So Windows Home, Windows Professional, Windows Data Center, right?
Huh.
These are different editions.
Okay, 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 got it.
So in terms of SQL Server, can someone give me an example regarding version and edition in terms of SQL software?
Yeah, so version again, Saurav here. So version is the one which we downloaded, the latest one, that is 18 point something it was.
SQL
And the
Server 2022, SQL Server 2022. It is a version of SQL Server software.
okay,
Okay.
okay, yeah, that one is the
And what is the
version.
edition?
Yeah, edition is the Enterprise Standard Developer Express, etc. These all
Yes.
are
So
editions.
we have installed which edition of SQL Server 2022?
We install the
Develop.
developer edition.
We have installed SQL Server 2022 Developer Edition, right?
Yeah,
So now I think we have understood the difference between version and edition. Now to check the current version of SQL Server, the command is select @ version, right? So for me, it's Microsoft SQL Server 2019. It's a developer edition of 64-bit. And this software, SQL Server 2019 Developer Edition, is installed on Windows 10 Home Single Language Support. Anyway, so the software version is Microsoft SQL Server 2019 and the edition is Developer Edition. So can you guys please run this command and check the output?
yeah, done.
So there are two options. One, the button you see here, this is showing result to grid. If you select this one and execute, it will show you the output in grid format. And you have in the beside of that button, you have other option, result to text. If you click that, it will give you the output in text format like this. Okay. So you can select result to text format to see a better output or better representation of the query.
Devabrata, I'm interrupting. Sorry. Can you please show me once again how you did that read and text thing?
This is result to text button.
Okay.
You need to click on this once to enable it, and
Okay.
the other option is result to grid. You can
Okay.
select this one or this one depending on your
Okay.
requirement.
Okay.
What is the difference, Devabrata? Grade and this one?
So if you select the text, the output will show like this. If you select the grid, it will show the output in grid format, right?
Okay.
So the grid format would be more logical to understand in the next part of the course. But for now, this is the difference. But you will understand the difference in a better way once we start going for the next chapters. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So we learned about enterprise edition, which is having maximum license cost with full set of features. Then we have standard edition, which is having the minimum license cost with basic features of the software. And then we have developer edition. This is a fully featured free edition for students or developers. Now the question is, then why someone should buy a high costly license where both the developer edition and enterprise edition having the same features? So we are getting the same software. One is absolutely free and one is, we need to pay a very high cost for the license. Anyone can tell me
Data
that why?
security.
Not exactly. So the difference is Microsoft is going to support for enterprise edition. That means if you run into a problem for enterprise edition, Microsoft engineers will come to solve your problem. Okay. But if you run into a problem in developer edition, Microsoft engineer won't entertain you to solve the problem in the particular software. All right. Now let's consider a situation where you are running a bank. Okay. So if you are running into a problem, you need to make sure that the owner of the software should come and resolve the issue so that you don't have much downtime for the customers, right? So that is why for business requirements, we always use enterprise edition to get the support from the product owners. So the licensing cost we are giving it for the support of the product owner. All right. Is it clear?
Yeah, yeah, if I'll say the difference between version and edition, and can you just give me one sentence, that answer in a one sentence if I'll write it down?
So version is basically the entire software. All right.
Okay.
And edition is basically the flavors of that particular software. All right. And I mean, one liner, that would be difficult. You need to give some examples to convince the interviewer.
Yeah, no, I don't need that in example. Actually, we are already having that. I was just need an answer for the question. That's why I asked it.
All right. So next is system databases. So if I go to Microsoft SQL Server, here we have a folder called system databases. If I expand it, I can see. So everyone please ignore this database. This is for some other configuration. You can ignore this database. So the system databases we are having is master, model, MSDB and tempdb. Okay. And we have an additional database. This is called as resource database. So system databases are the databases which is actually used by SQL Server itself for its internal usage. Okay. And the database list are master, model, MSDB, tempdb and resource database. Now out of this 5 database, we can see these 4 database. in the instance, but resource database, this is not listed in the UI. This database is present in the boot location, but this is not accessible to us. Okay, so let me open the next module where we have the system database details. All right, before I go and explain about these things, let me ask you guys one thing. Let me put this thing after this. Can someone give me the explanation of client server model? So I've given the
Google
example
Chrome,
yesterday.
uh, as you told, Google Chrome is the client software, and www.google.com is the server. Hello.
I need an explanation of what is client server model.
Uh, so I'm trying. Okay.
Actually, basically,
As
it distributes the model between the client and the database.
Tries to create relationship between two or more devices, a lot of devices.
Let's do
uh,
one thing. Let's try to search client server model and let's see.
Our client server is SQL and SSMS is our server. Sorry, server is SQL.
Mhm.
Maybe like that.
All right. So the one-liner answer is
We can say it's a transaction-based model.
yeah, it is. So the client server architecture refers to a system that hosts, delivers, and manages most of the resources and services that the client requests. What is the meaning of that? The client
can
server
I can I
architecture
give
refers, yeah, yeah,
can I give an example?
no, example is there. So I have
Uh,
explained you guys client server architecture by giving an example. Now what I'm
yes, yes.
asking you guys is the understanding, right?
So here we need something. We need a service. If we need a service from, like, if we want to find some information, in that case we take help of a client software, that is Google Chrome, and with the help with the should I continue?
Yeah, continue, no issues.
With the help of that, you know that Google Chrome connects with the server google.com, and then it require it the software client software requests the server to find the answer of whatever question I'm asking, and
Mhm.
then the server finds the results and displays it in front of in the screen, on the screen, basically.
Right. So in simple words, let's say we are searching for a particular information, and the information which I'm searching, that could be anything. That could be anything, right? So Google server is holding the information of the entire world, right? So is it possible to consume that amount of data in our laptop, in our mobile, in our desktop? No, right? So that would be needing an entire data center to hold that amount of information. So Client-server architecture refers to a system. The system is basically the data center or a huge capable computer that is capable to host and deliver and manage most of the resources and services. That means a computer that is capable to host the data of the entire world, that is capable to find a particular piece of data and deliver that data within the entire data set, and a computer which can manage all the resources. All the resources means the entire data set that is having with it, right? So it's having the entire data set of the entire world. So the computer should be capable enough to manage the entire data set, right? So that is called as a server. So a server is a highly configured computer with a very high processing power which can deliver all the required request that is sent by a client. Now if you read out the line one more time, the client server architecture refers to a system. Give a pause here. The client server architecture refers to a system. Now the system is basically the server, okay, that hosts, delivers and manages most of the requests and services. Now till this point we have the description of a server. So it can deliver, it can host, deliver, manage all the resource and the services that actually request by a client. So a client is going to request something and a server should be capable enough to deliver everything that is requested by a client. Is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
now in this model, all the requests and services are delivered over network. And it also refers to a networking computing model or client server model. Now in current situation, everything is derived on and over the public internet, right? So when we talk about any architecture, public internet is involved in it. But it is not necessary that we need uh, public internet. It could be a private internet as well. What is private network? Private network means the network is not exposed to the public network. The network is private and isolated from the public network. Let's consider I have built my own private network by connecting 10 computers within themselves. So 10 computers connected to a switch. They are connected to a switch and a router. They can communicate with each other. So this 10 computer is creating a private network. So computer 1 can communicate with computer 2, right? So this is a private network. Not necessary that a client server architecture will be built on public network only. It can build on private network as well. All right. So the example client tool. So this is one example that I have given you guys yesterday, right? So client tool is web browser. Instance or connection name is google.com. Connectivity is public internet. Server is Google server present in Google data center, right? Then we have request going from our web browser to Google server, and then we are getting back the output in the Google in the web browser. So that's the example. All right. Going to next. What is SQL? So SQL full form basically standard programming language or structured programming language. So the full form of SQL is not standard programming language. It is basically structured programming language. So what is structured programming language? Structured programming language is basically a language which is used to communicate with the database. Okay. Mm,
Devabrata, Saurabh here. Sorry to
mm,
interrupt.
tell me.
About this question and answer, the notes, right? Will we get a copy of it or we have to take it down or how?
No, it will be provided by another class. So yesterday we mostly worked on installing, so there wasn't
Hmm.
much to provide, right?
Okay, okay, got
So
it.
today I'll be providing the entire class notes to Sanchita. She'll be updating you guys. Okay.
Got it. Thanks a lot.
All right. So what is SQL? SQL means the full form of SQL is structured query language. Structured query language. Okay. Mm, just a moment, guys. Structured query language. Now, what is structured query language? So this is a standard programming language used in database uh, or to provide the instructions to database. So as we know that every software needs a way to communication, right? So in order to communicate with Microsoft SQL Server, the programming language we are going to use is SQL, and the full form of SQL is structured query language. Now, as I was saying that initially it was developed by IBM, right? And the software name was Sybase. So IBM did the patent. IBM actually developed the programming language called SQL, and they did the patent of SQL. So what happens is whenever a new, I mean, see, the SQL patent was taken by IBM, right? Now, if Microsoft want to use the software, it cannot name it as SQL because it is already patented by IBM. So what it does is it named is T-SQL. Instead of SQL, they name it as T-SQL. T stands for transact, right? Transact or transactional or transaction, right? So transact structured query language or transactional structured query language is basically a enhanced version of SQL. So it uses all the features of SQL with some additional features provided by Microsoft. So SQL is a very generic language, and Microsoft inherited that language, performed or added some additional features in it, and they named it as T-SQL. And the patent language for Microsoft SQL Server is T-SQL. Okay. So if someone asks you what is the programming language for Microsoft SQL Server, the answer will be T-SQL. Okay. So if you give the answer that the programming language for Microsoft SQL Server is SQL, this is a wrong answer, because SQL is a very general or standard programming language used for all the databases, right? So you need to give the specific programming language name that is used for a specific software. So the specific software is Microsoft SQL Server, and the specific language that is used for Microsoft SQL Server is T-SQL or Transact SQL. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, the next obvious question would be, what is the difference between SQL and T-SQL? So T-SQL is the programming language developed by IBM, right? And T-SQL is the programming language developed by Microsoft SQL Server or Microsoft, right? SQL is a programming language that is used for DB2 or Sybase. T-SQL is a programming language that is used for Microsoft SQL Server. SQL is basically a very standard programming language, but T-SQL is very specific to Microsoft SQL Server software only. You cannot apply T-SQL in any other software. All right. T-SQL has additional features over SQL programming language. Okay. So these are the major differences between SQL and T-SQL. Functionally, both are same, but there are some minor differences depending on the features and the
Uh, the,
software.
there was a sorry to interrupt. Can you please come again with the use of SQL?
So as I was saying, as I was discussing about the history of Microsoft SQL Server, I said that initially the database software was developed by IBM, okay, and the software name was Sybase, okay. The programming language used for Sybase was SQL, okay. So my IBM mm, did the patent for SQL, so no one else can use the name SQL for the language, okay. So as Microsoft has developed a new software for the database management system, the software name is Microsoft SQL Server. So they need some program language to perform the programming on the database server, right? Now they has taken the flavors, they have taken the features from SQL, and on top of that, they have added some additional features, right? And they named it T-SQL. Like for Oracle, they has
So
taken
Sybase basically a
the
tool or what?
no, Sybase is a fully functional database management software like SQL Server. So in the industry, we have many different type of database softwares: Sybase, DB2, Oracle, MySQL. We have MS SQL. And the software we are currently learning is MS SQL Server or Microsoft SQL Server.
Actually, I have heard about MySQL. Is it different from MS SQL, or there are so many similarities are there?
Architecture is different, obviously. The programming language is almost similar to MS SQL. See, one thing you guys need to understand, if you learn one programming language for any one of this software, learning the programming language for any other software is very easy because they all inherit the same programming style, which is inherited from SQL. Okay. Every programming language is using almost same programming styling, which is SQL or structured query language, but there are some minor changes that you need to make for other softwares. So if you learn one programming language for one software, learning other programming language for other these softwares is not very difficult. It would be very quick to learn, okay, because they are using almost the same structure. Is it clear?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. So these topics also I want you guys to learn. you guys face any problem, please let me know. All right. So let's see. So in this module, we have different topics like data storage with SQL Server, storage for system databases, managing storage for user databases, moving database files. So all these things we are going to learn in this module. How data is stored in SQL Server, considerations for disk storage devices, determining file placement and number of files, ensuring sufficient file capacity. All right, now this slide is very interesting. Before I go to this slide, can anyone tell me what is the slowest device of a computer hardware?
Hard disk.
Correct. And what is the fastest device in the computer hardware?
That's the cache memory in the RAM.
So the fastest memory is, let me point it down. I'm starting from slowest, hard disk drive. Then we have solid state drive. Then we have RAM. Then we have L2. Then we have L1. In current situation, we have L3 as well. So HDD, what is this? Hard disk
Hard disk.
drive. That is the storage device of our computer, right? Next is SSD. What is this?
Solid state drive.
Solid state drive. What is RAM?
Then random access memory.
What is L3?
Not sure about.
Cache memory.
Motherboard cache.
That.
What is L2?
Not sure.
CPU cache. What is L1? Okay. So hard disk drive is basically a device which is storing our data. So it's like you guys know about CD or DVD, right? So what CD or DVD does, it stores the information in a particular disk, right? So hard disk drive is like the same thing of CD and DVD only. The difference is the intensity of the pixel or the intensity of storing capacity is very high. Okay, that's the only difference. So you can understand it's a rotating device coupled with a moving arm. Okay, and the arm is moving from one location to other location to read a particular data, right? So there are physical movements that is involved in a hard disk drive. That is why it is the slowest device in a computer. Next is solid state drive. This is a capacitor based storage device which is very faster in nature, but the only difference is it's much more costlier when we compare it with hard disk drive. All right, the next is RAM, or random access memory. This is also capacitor based, but the intensity of the capacitors are very high. That is why the frequency of read write operation is very fast for random access memory. Now what is L3? L3 also a capacitor based memory or storage device which is placed in our computer motherboard, which is faster than RAM, and so this is also very high cost capacitors which provide much more efficient read write access than RAM. Okay, and obviously these are smaller in size. What is L2? L2 is the same capacitor based storage device which is placed in CPU chip. L1 is also a capacitor based storage device. This is also placed in CPU chip. So to give you a perspective, L1 cache size generally varies between 8 to 16 KB. Okay, L2 cache varies between 1 to 4 MB. L3 cache varies between 2 to 8 MB. Or sometimes, if the motherboard is a very good motherboard, 16 MB up to. Okay. Random access memory, this varies generally between 1 to, let's say for home computers, 16 or let's say 32 GB. Okay. SSD, this generally varies, mostly used for operating system drives or C drive. So a solid state drive varies between, let's say, 60 to 256 or 250 GB. And a hard disk drive varies between, let's say, 100 to 100 GB to, let's say, 2 TB. Right? So just to give you guys an understanding. So here the cost is low, the performance is low, but the capacity is high. Here the cost is higher than HDD, the capacity is lower than HDD, and the performance is also higher than HDD. Random access memory or RAM is costlier than SSD, performance is higher than SSD, but the capacity is lower than SSD. L3 cache, the cost is much higher than RAM, the capacity performance is much higher than RAM. At the same time, the capacity is much lower than RAM. Same goes for L2 and L1 cache. So this is the hierarchy of a computer storage device. Okay. Any questions on this?
Yeah, Devabrata, can we say like SSD is a virtual HDD?
No, it's not a virtual HDD. SSD is a physical device itself.
Achha.
So if you want a better performing storage device, you can use SSD. As simple as that. So if you have budget to buy a SSD, if you have budget to replace HDD with SSD, so you can opt for SSD, not an issue. It is not a logical segregation, it's a physical device.
So okay, so can we use multiple SSD, or can we expand that SSD
So
capacity?
both we can have multiple SSD, or we can have a bigger capacity of SSD. We have both the options. Everything depends on the
Okay.
compatibility with the motherboard. Anyone else?
What's that difference in L1 and L2? Like other than that,
So
like
L2 is a shared cache or shared storage for all the cores. So if you see the architecture of a CPU in current era, the CPU is having multi-core architecture, right?
yeah,
So a
yeah,
physical CPU is having, let's say, 4 logical CPU.
okay,
So there is a chip which is placed as a base, and on top of that there are four. Let me show you with the picture. It is
so they all are in memory, right? L1, L2, L3.
a moment, huh? All right. So if you see this L2 cache, so we
Okay,
have a core. Within this core we have a common memory which would be accessed by the logical core 1, core 2 both. Okay. So
okay,
this common memory is called as L2.
okay,
And
okay.
within a core, we have a dedicated memory, which is called as L1 memory.
L1. Okay,
All right. And this memory, you see L3, this is actually not physically connected with the processor. This L3 memory, we also call it as onboard memory. Onboard memory means on the motherboard, we have a very fast processing storage device, which we call it as L3 cache.
okay.
Is it clear to everyone?
Yep. So
What is
they
the
all.
purpose of? Sorry, you continue. You continue.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm just asking. They are all in memory, right? In memory computing, we can use.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
Like we have that in memory computation, right? So these
Mhm.
L1, L2, 3, L2 and
No,
L3 both are
in-memory computation is an entire different concept.
okay, okay,
So
okay,
we are going to learn about in-memory configuration or in-memory. What is in-memory architecture?
okay. Yeah,
Can
they
we
are
This
cache
design
so
it
memory,
in
Yeah.
what is the purpose of L3?
So, good question. What is the purpose? The purpose is to speed up the response time, to minimize the response time. So, if you see what is the response time of this search, about these many information or these many results has been given within this amount of time. So this is the response time, right? Half seconds. So our
Yes.
target is to minimize the response time. So when we are dealing with such slow devices like HDD, right? So this type of response time is like impossible to achieve with such slow devices. Now, to increase the response time, we need to segregate the devices and we need to make sure that we are keeping most frequent used data in the most, you know, uh, most better performing storage devices. Let's say I am using a particular information. Let's say the information is ABC. I'm using this ABC information with every operation. With each and every operation, I'm using this piece of information. Then this piece of information should reside in the very fast possible device which we are having, that is L1. Let's say in the next line we have CDE. So this data is been used very frequently, but not as frequent as ABC. So this data would be present in L2, so that the response time for the compute is very quick, right? So in the same way, the data which is very rarely used, that will reside under HDD, so that we can get the most relevant data in a very quick manner.
Okay. Thank you,
Now,
Devabrata.
one may ask, like, why we simply cannot just ignore these slow devices, right? The simple answer is cost. So let's say we need to store 2 TB of information. We cannot store 2 TB of information in L1 cache, right? And the other thing is, if L1 cache, the size of L1 cache get increased to 2 TB, the efficiency of L1 cache would be decreased. So there are different factors that are actually there, uh, so that we need to make sure that we are maintaining the hierarchy. All right.
Okay,
So I
Devabrata,
think
one
now,
more thing. Sorry, I'm
tell me.
interrupting. One more thing. Can you please show, like the way you showed L1 and L2 in diagrammatic representation? Can you show that? Can you show HDD and SDD in diagrammatic representation?
So after uh, here, after L3, we have main memory, that is RAM. Now after RAM, we have SSD, and after SSD, we have HDD. That's it. Okay.
Okay, Devabrata, thank you.
Devabrata, can we sort it in a binary form? Core 0 comes under L1, core 1 comes under L1, and L1 comes under L2, like this?
This is the logical segregation. When a cache memory is dedicatedly used for a particular core, then this type of cache is called as L1. When a cache is used by multiple cores, then this type of cache is called as L2. When a cache is used by the entire processor, then this type of cache is called as L3. So this is
Okay.
only the visual representation. It's not like that, it is sorted in a particular order. L1 means it is dedicatedly used for a particular core. Core 1 cannot access this L1. Core 1 only can access this dedicated L1. So this L2 can be accessed by both core 0 and core 1. This L3 can be accessed by core 0, core 1, core 2, core 3.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So let me run through the instance properties. So I think I don't have time today to go through this yet. I'll run through instance properties and database properties, and today we'll be wrapping up the class with this. Okay, so how to see instance properties? Right click on instance, go to properties. So here we have multiple options. Okay, first is general. Under general, we have the instance name. We have the product, Microsoft SQL Server Developer 64-bit. We have the operating system, Windows 10 Home Single Language Operating System. We have the platform, Windows. The version is version number. Language is English. Memory is this. Now there is a catch. Why memory is this only? Why not more? Why not less? Processor is for root directory. Root directory means where the software actually installed. The software actually installed in this location. So for you guys need to navigate to the location to make sure that you are familiar with the root directory of the software. Okay. Now under memory, we have the minimum memory and the maximum memory. So the maximum memory you see, it's a default number, it's in MB. Okay, so it's a default number, we can configure it. Let's say for me, my computer is having 6 GB of RAM. So now you understand why it's showing 6 GB. The reason is here in memory configuration, I did not configure anything. I kept it as default. This is the default value. As I kept it as default, it's taking the system memory as the SQL memory. My system memory is 6 GB. All right. So let's go to processors. Under processor, you can see I have 4-core processor, CPU 0, 1, 2, and 3. Under security, we have different type of SQL Server authentication. So this thing I am going to teach you guys in the later classes when we will be discussing about SQL authentications. And next we have connection, the maximum number of connection that we can allow. So it's set to 0. That means there is no limitation in connection. If we set a particular value, let's say 10, 20, 50 or 100, then maximum 100 client requests would be served at a time. Currently it is set to 0. That means there is no threshold set for the connection request. Threshold set for the client request. Okay. So as many client requests can hit the server at a time. So we have database settings. So data location, log location, backup location, that we are going to discuss in detail in upcoming classes. All right. So, and we have advanced and permission. So we are going to discuss about this as well. So this is the brief about instance properties. In the same way, we have database properties. So right click on database, go to properties. That will give you some database information. Name is AdventureWorks. This is my database name. Date created, when the database was created. All right. Size of the database in MB. Currently available space of the database. Current number of users. Okay. Now under files, we can see the file details. So I don't want to discuss much about this because tomorrow we have a dedicated slide for it where I'll be discussing about how a database is actually created, what are the physical files, and when we create a database, how the database actually got created with multiple files. So there are different type of files that actually make a database. So when we see a database, we see only a database name, but in the background there are physical files located in physical locations, and there are different type of files which will make a database. Okay, so I'll be discussing about these database files and how it actually work, but I want to give a fresh start tomorrow because today we don't have much time to finish it. So tomorrow we'll start with this slide. All right, so that was it. I have given you guys some homework. Homework means these topics you guys need to Google it and you guys need to learn about these topics. Okay, and I could ask some questions on the homework, and you can also ask me some questions if you find any difficulty understanding these topics. Okay, so let me put this class notes. All right, anyone is having any questions?
Yeah, Debabrata, actually, in services, why it is not showing me that while you were showing your screen, SQL Server harms was there. I am talking about the service name. In mine
Mhm.
case, it is no service name is there in services.
Make you presenter. What is your name?
Saroj.
Saroj. Presenter. Please share your screen.
Okay. See.
So MS SQL Server or SQL Server. So for you, the service name is MS SQL Server. Within brackets.
MS.
So do you see the service name SQL Server?
This one. This one. This one.
Can you select the service? Your screen is actually freezed for me. Yes. So within brackets, you see the name is MS SQL Server. So
Yeah.
as I discussed, the default value would be MS SQL Server, right?
Okay.
So when we are giving a name to our service, the name would be the name given by us. So for me, I have given a name. The name is Hermes. By the way, Hermes is a Greek god. The name of a Greek god is Hermes. All right. So I've given that name as my preference. So that is the service name of SQL Server. For you guys, it's a default one. That is why it's showing MS SQL Server. All right. Is it clear?
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All right. So I'll be passing the class notes to Skill Enable team. They'll be providing it to you guys. Thanks
Uh,
everyone.
there
Please work
were,
on the homework. Yeah. Sort of. Yeah.
yeah. Just the questions, the homework questions, can you share with us now? Because skill enabled team might take some time to share the notes.
Yeah. Let me share it right away. Just a moment. I'm pasting in the chat.
Okay.
Uh, Debabrata, I can't see the questions. Oh,
Can you
now
see it
now
now?
it's yeah, I can see it now. Yes, thank you.
All right. So please work on the homework and we'll catch up tomorrow. Thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you.